What if I told you that your next major grant or your next big paper isn't going to come from some sudden flash of brilliance? What if the actual secret to a successful research career isn't built on excitement, but on, well, boredom? I know, sounds a little crazy, right? But let's get into it.
We all love that story, don't we? The brilliant scientist in a lab coat shouting eureka and changing the world overnight. It makes for a great movie scene for sure. But in the real world, that myth is exactly what keeps so many of us feeling stuck, feeling like we're not smart enough. The real story is way less glamorous.
So we're taught to chase this idea on the left, this chaotic, tangled mess of genius. But the reality, the thing that actually builds a career that lasts, looks a whole lot more like the image on the right. It's built brick by boring brick, with these consistent, unglamorous habits. And this gap between the myth and the reality, that's where so much frustration in academia comes from.
And here's the real kicker. Waiting around for that big aha moment is probably the very thing holding you back. Real, sustainable success is actually forged in the small, mundane, everyday tasks that you might even ignore because they don't feel like you're doing real science. So in this explainer, we are going to break down 5 of these super boring, but absolutely game-changing habits. We're talking about the zero draft, the paranoid control, the specific aims obsession, the habit of documenting the why, and finally, embracing rejection.
All right, let's kick things off with habit number 1. This is all about defeating what is maybe the scariest enemy in all of academic writing, that blinking cursor on a blank page.
So, I want you to meet the zero draft. Now, what's so wild about this is its entire purpose. The goal is not to write something good. Nope. The goal is simply for it to exist. It's supposed to be ugly, full of placeholders like, insert a really smart citation here. And you should write it long before your data is even close to perfect. And why on earth would you do this? Because it forces you to find the giant gaping holes in your logic before you waste months at the lab bench.
And it all just boils down to this one simple truth. Staring at that blank document, trying to come up with the perfect opening line, it's an exercise in pure frustration. Getting something, literally anything, down on paper gives you clay to mold. It's not exciting, but man, is it effective.
Okay, so let's move from the keyboard over to the lab and talk about habit number 2. This one is about a huge mental shift. It's about going from trying to prove yourself right to actively, obsessively trying to prove yourself wrong.
Look, we're all naturally wired to want that positive result, right? To see that line on the graph shoot up. But the most successful researchers, they're paranoid. They obsess over all the different ways their big, exciting experiment could totally fail before they even start. And this saves them from what is maybe the worst feeling in all of science, having to retract your own excitement.
And it really comes down to these incredibly simple, almost insultingly boring steps. Most people skip these because they feel like a waste of time. But trust me, nothing wastes more time than spending 3 months analyzing data that was totally flawed from day one because of a simple mistake.
Okay, up next is grant writing. The temptation is to just dive right into the big, detailed science section first, and that is a huge mistake. This habit is all about focusing your energy where it has the absolute most impact.
I want you to really let this sink in. You should spend 80%, 80, of your total grant writing time and energy on one single page, the specific aim section. Yeah, 80%.
This chart here shows you exactly what I mean. You have to think like a reviewer. They're tired. They are reading dozens of these things, and they make up their minds almost entirely based on that first page. The other 50 pages, a lot of the time, they're just skimming to confirm the decision they already made.
And here is the bottom line. If your project is not crystal clear and exciting on page 1, you're done. They've already mentally moved on. It feels incredibly tedious, I know, to rewrite the same 500 words for an entire week. But that one page is so often the difference between getting funded and getting rejected without even a full review.
All right, on to habit number 4. This one will turn your lab notebook from just a simple list of chores into a powerful map of your own thinking.
We all write down what we did. Added 5 milliliters of solution. Excluded data point number 7. Fine. But 6 months from now, are you going to remember why? The transformative habit is adding a simple reasoning section to every single entry. This little change prevents you from repeating your own past mistakes and makes your logic clear to anyone who follows your work, including your future self.
And finally, that brings us to the 5th and honestly, maybe the most important habit of them all. This one isn't about technique. It's about the mental resilience you have to build just to survive a career in research.
Let's just be very, very clear about this. You will be rejected. Your papers, your grants, your brilliant ideas, it's going to happen. It's not a reflection of your intelligence or your worth. It is a fundamental, unavoidable part of the process. The key insight here is all in the response. Most of us, and it's totally normal, take it personally. We stop working, we question if we're cut out for this. The boring but incredibly effective habit is to strip the emotion away. Just treat the reviewer's comments as simple, actionable data. It's just a checklist of problems to solve.
And this is the key. Success isn't about avoiding failure. No one does. It's about the speed of your recovery. It's about how quickly you can process that rejection, fix the problems, and get right back to work.
Ultimately, all of these habits really point to one core idea. Research is a marathon of mundane tasks. It is not a highlight reel. It's about writing one more bad sentence, running one more control, and fixing one more rejection. If you can learn to fall in love with that process, the results, they'll eventually take care of themselves. So I'll leave you with this question. Just take a look at your own workflow. Which of these habits are you neglecting right now? And which one could you start implementing tomorrow? That small, boring choice you make today might just be your next big breakthrough.